Hi, everyone. Welcome to another coffee chat with Castle Hill. Today I'm joined by my partner, Mike Duggan. We're actually going to talk a little bit about the origins of Castle Hill on today's chat. So thanks, Mike, for joining me. And you didn't really have a choice, I know, but that's okay.
It's all good.
So we just wanted to sort of refresh people as our GRC as a service capabilities have continued to evolve. We just wanted to put a few minutes aside to just talk about the beginning of Castle Hill, where this idea came from, and why customers are finding it more and more attractive from a GRC as a service perspective. So I'll start a little bit of the background, and we'll go from there. So one of the reasons that Castle Hill was originally founded was that during the financial crisis and before that, even the cost of risk management for most organizations, considering it's typically a cost center, not a profit taking or a profit creating unit within an organization, is something that's very expensive. The tools that are used by the different GRC tools that are out there, a little bit more esoteric, not your standard tools that are easily aligned with your technology teams, and also there's the overall business knowledge of what you're trying to achieve. There's a lot of tribal knowledge that people have within their organization. It's hard for them to apply the standard frameworks and other capabilities that they have. And so Castle Hill was really founded with that idea that as a company, we could do that more effectively and efficiently than most organizations can do internally. And we can provide that at a better price point with a greater actual service level than what they'd be getting internally. So that was sort of the genesis of where Castle Hill came from that perspective. And working with Mike, we started to build out what that model would look like overall and do some of those things. And then, of course, things happened, and we ended up getting heavily involved back in consulting activities. And so, a lot of our first couple of years, a majority of the team within Castle Hill were focused on doing some consulting activities, helping some large financial services organizations with some of the activities that they had. But during that time, Mike and our GRC as a service team were really fleshing out some of those capabilities, and ultimately we focused it in the third party risk. So, Mike, why don't you take over the story from there?
Yeah, so kind of interesting. Like Tim said, moving out of professional services into a more of a managed service or a GRC as a service model. We knew that that was the direction of the company. We were very fortunate to have those professional services clients, though, where we were doing these big implementations. They gave us the runway that was needed to move into this space and to really flesh things out. We started out the first office. The GRC as a service team was over the top of a coffee shop. There were two or three of us sitting inside of a small space, doing a lot of whiteboarding and really thinking through what this was going to look like, determining, is this something that we think we can make work? We knew there was an opportunity there. We knew there was a demand for it. To Tim's point earlier, there's lots of tools out there. And these tools are very important. They facilitate everything that companies are trying to do around GRC. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it takes more than that. It takes a lot of people. You can't eliminate and automate GRC. It still takes people thinking, people with risk experience, with compliance experience, to be able to engage. So we said, well, what if we were to help those organizations with those tactical pieces, so that the tactical work that those risk and compliance people are performing. That was really at the core of it. It was really business process outsourcing. We looked at all of the areas of GRC and we said these are areas that could technically be outsourced under a managed service model, allowing risk and compliance people to really jump into what they're hired to do, which is to manage the risk and to manage the compliance function of their organization, as opposed to worrying about the day-to-day tactical work that has to be done. It was an interesting time. We came up with an original model. I remember first conference we went to. We brought this thing out. We were so proud of it. We rolled it out the door, and everybody was like, "We have no idea what you're talking about or how we would even do that." And we realized that there was going to be a learning curve associated with this, and for people to accept that there were things that they were doing that probably wasn't high value add, right? So, and that's really where the GRC as a service model came from. So we evolved. We went back to the table and said, okay, people aren't quite understanding it. How are we going to simplify it? And it was about that time that third party risk became a red hot topic. And that's really where things started to take off from there, to the point that we've grown it into a fairly into a really successful practice, and with certainly a lot of customers. So it was nice, really eliminated those customer concentration issues that really nag small businesses, small firms as they're growing, where they really rely on a couple of customers for the core of their revenue. This allowed us to expand to the point that we're no longer worried about that. We now have very strong recurring revenue streams. It became a partnership with these clients, where we're deeply embedded with them. We're working with them as a true partner. And that's really at the core of what GRC as a service is. It's really us partnering, CastleHill partnering with the organization to do a lot of the tactical work and provide them with all the advisory that they need on top of that. Because if a program is inefficient, we're also going to be inefficient. So we can't allow that to happen. So we have to work very closely with the organizations to help them make their programs efficient and also increase effectiveness at the same time. So that was really at the core of it.
And I think it also helped us to really clarify the difference between just supporting someone's platform and program as opposed to executing the program as well, right? That was one of the other interesting, learnings that you guys took as we were building those pieces up. It is a very administrative and labor intensive task, third party risk in particular. And so, from that perspective, being able to have dedicated experts doing it is much more efficient. Back to that point, right? That's much more efficient and effective than folks who are, it's one of their three other jobs or trying to push it out into the business lines or any of those other sort of things. So it makes it a lot simpler.
And one of the things that we've always been about, Tim, is making sure that we're platform agnostic, right? The technology, again, is very important, and we have amazing partnerships. And thank goodness that these technologies exist, right? It
Yep.
would be nearly impossible to keep up with the amount of change going on in the industries, or to even make your programs function inside of these, especially some of these larger organizations, without having the tools. But yet at the same time, the tools can't do it all, right?
Yep.
There's still there's still all this qualitative analysis that still has to happen. You can't just quantify everything. It just doesn't work that way, and unfortunately, that's kind of the way that it is. It's also, these platforms are so important because they provide all the reporting that's needed, right? It's not enough to do the work. It's also important that you're able to report off of it at the end of the day, and provide real value up the chain,
Yep.
to the committees, or to either the governance committees or executive level, asking, how do these programs that we're spending all this money on strategically fit into our organization, right? Why are we doing all this, and why do we need these tools? Why do we need these people, right? And it helps to show that. And we find that GRC as a service actually really enables that as well, right? Again, letting those managers, those folks that are running the programs, truly run the programs, and be able to go back to those committees and those executives to say, here's exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it. These are the outcomes of that. And also being able to show it to the regulators on top of that, in most cases, the most important thing, right? Let me make sure that the regulators understand what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it. And that goes an awful long way. That's where the ROI comes in.
I think it's you brought up a couple of good points, right? So sort of in the theoretical timeline, right? So one of the aspects was making sure that we could apply the GRC as a service across the operational risk space, right? Not just for specific siloed types of capabilities. So from an operational risk GRC as a service perspective, we're able to support the entire operational risk area, right? So some things that are non-financial, non-credit risk from that side of it, and we do it on a day-to-day basis. The other piece that you really mentioned, and we've been very successful there as well, so beyond the customer concentration concerns, there's also the platform concentration concerns, right? If you're stuck all your eggs into one particular platform basket, as many GRC service companies do, that's a big problem, right? And so it's back to that whole concept of saying that the customer shouldn't actually care what platform is, right? That's not going to be their concern. It's not the thing that they have to deal with. What they're doing, to your point, is they're taking the outputs, they're managing the risk, they're doing those pieces, and we use our expertise with now multiple platforms to bring that capability to them. So whether it's Archer, Process Unity, Metric Stream, ServiceNow, any of the different major GRC platforms, as well as many very specific platforms for just one-off activities, and bringing all that together into an integrated environment. We have all of those capabilities together to help customers with that side of it. So get away from the customer or type of risk, because we're also agnostic to the industry. And I know that's been especially potent on the third party risk side. So maybe talk a little bit about the different industries we have.
Yeah, sure. So we're playing now across all kinds of different industries, both regulated and unregulated. Everybody's sort of facing some kind of regulation one way or another, whether they're a public company and just dealing with SEC regulations, or where they have to have some sort of control structure in place, right? It's really more around SOX controls and being able to show that you've got your environment uh, under control. And then those regulated industries as well. We're across now, of course, financial services, which is where we've always cut our teeth. It's where the core of this is at, with all the regulations they deal with. But we're also in the media industry, oil and gas, and it kind of goes on and on. Some areas like the media industry that you really wouldn't think much about until you dig down into their business model and you realize there's a lot more exposure there than most people realize. And certainly from a reputational perspective as well, they have to be very, very concerned around that. It was very interesting to get into a lot of these different industries and breaking a little bit away from financial services. And even the fintechs, they just operate differently, and but yet here they are supporting these large financial organizations. So it's not necessarily just about them, it's about their clients, right? Their
Right.
clients are expecting that they have all of these things in place, and if they don't, they can't do business with them. And in some cases, these are some of the mega banks. These are the largest banks in the world, and they are ferocious in how they come at these fintechs and demanding that they be operating at the same level that they are, which puts a tremendous amount of pressure on an organization to keep those customers happy. So it's GRC as a service has really played into that, especially again, we've gotten so much traction in that TPRM space, that third party risk space, that um, it just makes sense. We provide one of the things that's always interesting in talking to a lot of the companies, especially outside of the pure financial services play, is that is the resource continuity component of this thing. That it's so hard for folks to find people and to keep them engaged and make them feel a part of it. With our team, we provide all of that resource continuity. You've got a full team of people. It's not one or two. It's not staff augmentation where you're providing a single resource. The idea behind this is to provide a team of people that are interchangeable so that you can meet the cycles, the highs and lows. And that comes, interestingly enough, with different industries as well. And that's what we found with those industries, is that there are cycles within those industries where they're busier than others. And it's being able to, as we learned that, we were able to scale the teams up and down based on what that demand looks like. And that goes across things like, we've got some customers that are doing issue management where we help them, and they with a GRC as a service model under issue management, where that's all they want to do is us to handle issue management for them, because they've done a great job of building out a team that does all of the upfront work. They take it to the point where they log issues, and then they're like, okay, now it kind of falls by the wayside, because they realize that, if just for example, third party risk, there's kind of an onboarding process, there's an assessment due diligence process, and then there's a third work stream, which is how do you do the issues after it's all over. And trying to take that across one team, having one team handle it all from end to end, has generally been the model. And what a lot of organizations are finding is that that actually needs to be broken up almost into three work streams. It's too much for one analyst or a team of analysts to take it from end to end. They are taking it and kind of breaking it into buckets at this point. And GRC as a service fits really well into that, because you can pick a bucket. You need help with onboarding, that's fine. We can help you with onboarding. You need help with due diligence, we can do that. Issue management, we can do that. Or we can create the teams that handle that from all across the work streams. So it's been interesting to say the least. And then on top of that, providing the platform expertise and the advisory, always having a principal level consultant on there to be working with the organization around best practices and how do they streamline things, make things better. Uh, it's been an interesting journey to say the least.
I think one which we're getting a lot more traction on as we look towards the future because to your point, I think it just was really, really important that aspect that we can apply specialists with specialized knowledge, so cyber risk, third party onboarding, vendor chain, supply chain management, regulatory change management, just every single area we can provide the specialist type of activity, either from a advisory or a day-to-day operations perspective, or we can assist the company to run across the entire area. And as the oversight bodies, the regulators and auditors and all those people are coming back to companies that have not had to worry about this as much in the past, they're all looking at and say there should be somebody who's doing this. There should be the AWS of GRC, right? Or something along those lines. And effectively, that's what Castle Hill's GRC as a service is. It's taking all of that painful work that to get to the level of maturity that is going to make it efficient and effective and actually show real results. We bypass that for people because we immediately jump right into that higher level of maturity. So it's been a good journey.
And that's interesting as well, Tim, because that's one of the things that people sometimes when they're thinking about outsourcing some part of their work, they know internally they can't handle it. They don't have the resources to handle it. They don't have the expertise to handle it. They don't. In some cases, they say we just don't want to handle it. We have to do this, but we have so many other things that we want to do, and we want to run our projects. We want to continue to improve. How do we let people manage the process for us? And that's kind of where our tagline came from, right? We manage the process so you can manage the risk. At the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to, is let us manage the process. If it's a repeatable process, it's something that can be outsourced. People have a hard time with that because they feel like they may be losing control. But at the end of the day, that's not really what this is about. It's not about losing control. It's really about focusing in on the things that matter most, in the things that, again, add value within your organization, and reduce risk, not the day to day that has to happen. Um, we do this all U.S. based as well, so we're constantly training up people, looking for folks to come on board that have expertise in these areas that we can train up on how to manage multiple clients. We can spin these engagements up very, very quickly. Within weeks, literally, we can be heavily engaged and in managing that, freeing up the internal resources to do the work that they really need to get done. The initiatives that have been put on their plate that everybody looks at the beginning of the year and says, well, if we do the same work we're doing right now, how are we going to do these initiatives too? There's no way of getting there. How are we going to make this happen? GRC as a service steps in. Castle Hill can step in and help with that for short times or extended periods of time, and extended engagements as well. Um, we're really excited where this is going as it continues to scale.
And I think that's probably a great way to end it overall. Like we said, we wanted to just refresh people about where GRC as a service is and the success that we've been having across industries and across platforms, and really in maturing the overall our processes over the last few years, and now really helping clients to achieve a much higher level of maturity much more rapidly than they may have been able to, and at a better price point, right? So it all makes sense at the end of the day to do those things. So thanks for joining me, Mike. Great, great to sort of recatch all this up and think through it because it's something we don't get to do very often.
Oh, a little busy. We're all a
Yeah.
little busy.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me for Coffee Chat with Castle Hill. This episode actually concludes season 1 of our series. I'd like to thank all of our guests and everyone who has watched and provided comments on all of the social media outlets that we have posted these to. Really appreciate all of the hard work and great conversations that we've had with our guests and all those folks. And also really looking forward to continuing our discussions in season 2 into the rapidly changing world of risk management. And season 2 will be coming in mid-September. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your summer, and we'll see you again soon.